Where's the most common place that families gather to have a discussion? The kitchen table. It's the real estate show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I'm the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. The kitchen table, as I mentioned in the opening. What is it? We all have one in our house. It's considered to be the family gathering place. The place where traditionally families would sit down and have a meal or just have a conversation. Now, of course, in today's hustle and bustle, the kitchen table could be very virtual as opposed to actually sitting at the table. But the reason why I picked that subject is the kitchen table traditionally has been the place of gathering. It's a place where you can feel safe and have an honest conversation. Now, as I said, everybody has one in their house, and I'm sure all of us have sat at the table at one time or another and talked over things. Whether it's a family gathering, just talking about the day's events, or whether or not it's just discussing something that's going to go on in the future or a plan. And that's why I brought this subject up for the real estate show. Because the kitchen table becomes the focus point of major decisions. One of those major decisions may be to put your house on the market. And the kitchen table is where the realtor is going to come in and sit down and do their real estate presentation to you, the seller, when it comes to putting your house on the market. It's a place where ideas can be shared, questions can be asked, and presentations can be made. It's a safe place. It's a safe environment. And as I said, we all have it in our home. The kitchen table has been a tradition, a way to gather people together. Now, the kitchen table can be a phrase that can be used for other kinds of tables, maybe the dining room table, or in a business, the conference room table. It could even be sitting at a desk talking to the attorney, or anywhere that you might sit over somewhere where paperwork can be put out for signatures, where presentations can be made, where questions can be asked, and decisions can be made. Let's look at this little presentation that I put together that's all about the idea and the concept of the kitchen table. When you're going to list your home, the realtor will come over and set up their presentation, usually someplace in the house, where they can show you information or share information with you. And most conveniently, a lot of times, that's at the kitchen counter or the kitchen table or maybe the dining room table or somewhere where you can sit down and have an honest and open conversation as to what's going to happen if you decide to list your house with them. Now, a realtor, when they come in and they do a presentation, one of the first things they like to do is tour the house. In other words, they're going to ask you to show them your house. Walk through the house, take a look at the different rooms, talk about the different features, go down in the basement, go up in the attic if possible, go around the yard, and so on and so forth. And while the realtor is doing that, they may discuss with you different things to point out, or things that need repair, or things you should be aware of. We all live in our homes, and sometimes we overlook things because we live there. We don't really notice them because we're used to it. A realtor coming in is someone who's coming in with fresh eyes. So sometimes they can give you some real good suggestions. When the realtor does sit down and does start to do their presentation, they're going to talk about what the market value is of the home. In other words, how you're going to price the home. How do you price the home comparative to other houses that are on the market of similar shape, size, and features? How do you price the home in such a way where you as the seller are going to be able to get enough money to pay off your mortgage if you have one, or support the down payment on the next house you're wishing to buy, or pay off some debts, or whatever reason you happen to be selling your house? They're also going to talk about themselves. Now, they're not being egotistical here. They're going to talk about their career and what they have to offer themselves to the seller, as well as what the company that they're with, whether that's a large real estate company, a medium-sized real estate company, or a big real estate company, what that company has to offer them. The bottom line is you're going to make a decision on who you want to work with based on what you feel you're comfortable with. If you feel that the realtor is answering your questions, is giving you enough information to help you make a decision, and is friendly and personable and approachable, perhaps that's the company or the person you wish to do business with. The realtor is also going to go through an array of paperwork. They're going to discuss what the listing contract is all about and what's involved in that listing contract, what their obligations are, what your obligations are. They're going to go through disclosures. There's a lot of disclosures nowadays when you put your house on the market. You just don't put a sign up in the front yard that says, "Hey, my house is for sale." There's all kinds of paperwork that has to be done that's required. Property disclosures, inclusion reports, exclusion reports, lead disclosures, mold disclosures, awareness of asbestos, anything that you might be adding to the house, like if you're leaving the washer and the dryer behind, or if you're leaving, pool equipment behind because there's a swimming pool, and so on and so forth. And the realtor will go through all that documentation with you, and you'll sign certain things and come into an agreement with that realtor. And then they're going to take pictures of your house. They're going to take measurements of rooms. They're going to highlight certain areas because they're going to bring that all back and they're going to put it on the market to market the home. And they'll talk about how they're going to do that. Where is your house going to show up? What kind of websites? What's the multiple listing service all about? Are they going to use some other sources of advertising? Are they going to internally advertise your home to the multitude of realtors that are out there that may have buyers that are within your price range? And finally, they're going to talk about what happens when you get an offer on the house. How do you deal with multiple offers? How do you deal with an offer? What's a good offer? What's a bad offer? If you accept an offer, what's the next stage? So they're going to go through everything from the start to the finish. And anywhere along the time of that presentation, you can ask them questions that may be on your mind that you want answered to give you the confidence to put your house on the market. I put together this presentation that talks about the realtor's presentation. Let's take a look. I wanted to also talk about what I call the process. There's a process that's involved. Just about with anything you're looking to accomplish, there's some kind of a process or some kind of steps that you need to go through in order to accomplish the goal, right? So when it comes to putting your house on the market, or if as a buyer to buy a house, there's a process, there's a procedure, there are steps that you need to do in order to accomplish that goal. For the seller, the process starts early on. First of all, you have to make that decision at the kitchen table or wherever that you're going to put your house up for sale. Now you've got to start interviewing realtors. You've got to look at what different houses are and what different values are, what the market is doing, and what realtors have to offer. So you have to invite realtors into your home. You have to sit down with the realtor and ask them questions. And this is where the preparation becomes key, because there may be some things that you need to do to prepare your home to go on the market. Whether that's small repairs, fresh paint that may be needed, even staging, reducing furniture, reducing clutter, and so on and so forth. Those are all things that you need to prepare with. And then, of course, the realtor doing their presentation and going through all the different paperwork and the different things that they need to do. There's also a process of how the realtor is going to market the home. Now, this is going to involve you. Believe it or not, you, the seller, even though you're not going to be advertising your home for sale, you're very involved in the process. Because you see, once your home goes on the market, it has to be shown. So that means strangers, buyers, are going to come to your home to take a look. And the realtor is going to talk to you on how that happens and what happens when those buyers come into a home. Buyers, on the other hand, they have a process that they have to go through. And that's everything from gathering all their debts, gathering all their income, looking at their financial situation, working with a mortgage officer or originator, as they call them, putting together a mortgage package, which is going to require them to have all their bank statements up to date, all their paychecks up to date, any other incomes they have coming in, and so on and so forth, in order to become pre-qualified. In other words, get that letter that says, here's what we believe you would qualify for a mortgage. Now, I have to caution you, those pre-qualification letters are no guarantee. It's just a quick overview of what that mortgage officer is seeing as far as debt to income ratios and all the different mathematics that they do. What you really want is a pre-approval letter. The pre-approval letter means they've already run your credit, they've looked at your financials, they've looked at everything they need to look at, and here's what you can have for a mortgage. But of course, the flip side of that is a mortgage is no good unless you attach a house to it. So there's also what the house has to go through as far as process. Its appraisal process, what you're buying the house for, and so on and so forth. And all these things have to come together and all these things have to match in order for you to get to what they call the closing. Now, both the buyer and the seller have different things that they need to do together. And what I mean by that is cooperation. A lot of times when you have a house that a buyer makes an offer on and the seller accepts the offer, the next step is going to be the inspections. And sometimes with inspections you have issues that come up. And that means there has to be negotiation on things that may need to be repaired, on things that might need to be changed, or so on and so forth. The realtor who is representing the seller and the realtor who is representing the buyer will be the negotiators. You'll be able to talk to your realtor on what your wants are or what your needs are or what you have decided, and they're going to relay that to the other side. And the reason for that is so the transaction can stay at what they call arm's length. When it comes to real estate and it comes to selling a home or buying a home, one of the big pieces we forget about is emotion. There's a lot of emotions that are involved. And sometimes if you put a seller and a buyer together to talk directly, which you think is common sense, emotions get in the way. A seller may dig in on their price so that the buyer can't negotiate. A buyer may be unreasonable in their demands and the seller gets turned off. So the realtors use their experience, their background, their knowledge to help those two individuals, those two parties, come to a decision that works for everyone. It's called the arm's length negotiation, as I said. So there is a process that's involved. Let's watch this video on the process. What is the definition of a kitchen table? Well, the Webster's Dictionary and Britannica and Merriam-Webster and a lot of these different dictionaries defines the kitchen table as a place to have a conversation, a place to have an informal meeting. It is a place where in someone's home or a local cafe or a business, people can sit down and ask questions and have a conversation. It's a place where you can have a conversation in a safe environment, sometimes very informal. It even says, traditionally over a meal. Realtors like to eat, but I'm sure when they're doing a presentation, maybe some water or maybe a cup of coffee, but that's about all they really want to do. The theory is that when you gather together in a safe environment and have a discussion, it's much easier to make a decision to move forward. Gathering together to make a decision, whether it's a family unit, whether it's an individual with someone that they're talking to, whether it's just a general conversation, whether it's personal or whether it's business, there always has to be a focus point of where you're gathering together to make that decision. And you can't make a decision unless you have all the information in front of you. This is why when it comes to buying a home or selling a home, it's important to gather, to be around the kitchen table, to ask questions, to do your investigation, to educate yourself as to what the processes are going to be. Realtors are experts in being able to sit down with folks and talk to them about what's going to happen during the whole real estate transaction. They're going to come in and they're going to sit down at the kitchen table, or as I said, the dining room table or the living room couch or over a business desk or even the conference room table. They're going to gather with you. Now today, because of technology, a lot of this stuff can be done virtually. We all know about Zoom meetings and different types of forms where you have video meetings where we talk, over the computer, things that we do via our phone. There's even now the opportunity to use different types of signature systems which allow you to send paperwork for signatures back and forth. I've been involved in many closings where the buyer and the seller never see each other, where the attorney representing the buyer or the attorney representing the seller never see each other. The only point of contact for both the buyer and for the seller has been their realtor. And sometimes that is even done virtually. A lot of times realtors will go out to show homes for buyers, and we did a lot of this during the COVID period, where the realtor goes out by themselves and with permission of the seller, they'll do a walkthrough or a video presentation of the home in the area for the buyer, because the buyer either can't be there or doesn't want to be there or whatever the situation might be. Buyers also start their search on the internet. They look at pictures, they read about the house, they read about the neighborhood, the schools, and so on and so forth, the towns and traffic patterns and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of internet that gets involved when it comes to the total transaction. So whether or not you're going to be getting together or whether or not you're going to be doing it virtually, there's always going to be a point where there has to be a gathering. There has to be a place where everyone's going to come to terms and make a decision and go forth in order to make that a successful transaction. It might be over a kitchen table. My name is Rick Naples, and this is The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.